Hi, everybody. My name is Outer Armitage, and this is Sister Armitage. We are on our mission, and we are in the Hungary Budapest mission, serving in Sopron. Today with us, we have Elder and Sister Samples, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and they can tell us where they are currently serving and what type of mission they are serving. So go ahead, Elder and Sister Samples.
Let you start with the introduction. How's that?
Okay, well, this is my awesome husband, Elder Chris Samples. He retired from the military 10 years ago after 22 years of service in the US Army. And I followed him around because, of course, we were married and had various different types of jobs through the years.
Okay, and then this is our second mission. So we're serving as military relations missionaries in the Warsaw Poland Mission. And it's a unique to other military relations missions in that we have, instead of one base, we have an entire country. So so we get to drive a lot, so which is pretty amazing. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So
Well, awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about your background. You said you served in the military in the army. And what did you do in the army?
okay, so I was enlisted. I enlisted during Desert Storm as soon as that started off in 1991. And I spent about 3.5 years in, and then I received a green and gold scholarship and got out and went to college in North Carolina, a small little school called Campbell University. And then from there, I was commissioned as an armor officer, served for a few years during my lieutenant time, and then went to Special Forces selection and passed that and went through Special Forces qualification and spent most of my time in the military as a Green Beret. So from captain until lieutenant colonel when I retired. It was
Awesome.
amazing. I had 5 deployments to Afghanistan. We always joke around that that's my home away from home. I spent so much time there, and due to the requirements of the job, out of the 22 years I was in the military, I spent 7 years, unfortunately, away from my wife. So it's nice being retired and get to spend all our time together.
For sure. Well, Elder Armitage was in the army as well. He didn't stay in, but he joined about 92, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Close
Same
to the
time
same time.
frame. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what was your first mission?
So for our first mission, we ran one of the recreational camps for the church in North Carolina. It's called Eagle's Nest, and it was a little over 100 acres. There was a lake, tons of activities, and over 60 buildings to take care of. And we did that for 2 years.
And we had, I guess, YouTube University really helped us out with that mission because during that mission, we became electricians, plumbers, carpenters, you name it. We did it. And most of the things we had to figure out using YouTube and
Honestly, he did it. I just told him when he was doing something wrong, right?
So we maintained all those buildings and we would check in all the campers and check them out when they would leave. And that was pretty much it. And you lived there right there on the camp, and it was a great experience. We really enjoyed that time. It was during COVID too, so it was unique as well. So I guess our missions are the ones of uniqueness so far.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So you said you're serving in Warsaw, Poland as a missionary relations. Did you choose that? The mission,
That's a great question. You go ahead and tell about it.
So this one, when we talked to the coordinators for military relations, they asked us where we wanted to go, and we told them that as long as it's overseas, it doesn't matter. Just give us the hardest thing that you have to fill. And then so they told us 3 areas that they were working on filling. I mean, they do pretty well in military relations as far as filling slots. So that was a good thing. So they gave us 3 of the harder ones because they like people to have ID cards that are going overseas. So retirees are a little bit easier to get on base and get access. So we said anything overseas, and so initially we put in, I think it was Japan, Korea, and Germany. So 3 different locations in those, and then any place else overseas is kind of what we wrote down on our application, and we hit send. And then like the coordinators called us like that same night, the same day that the president hit send, after we did all our interviews and everything, and said, "Hey, I know I said I wasn't supposed to talk to you until you got your mission call, but I got special permission. There is a mission that's going to come open soon, and we've prayed about it. We really think your guys are perfect for it, and we just want to know if you're interested. You want to go to Europe, right?" And I was like, "We'll go wherever the Lord wants us to go." And so he told us about the mission in Poland, and we've lived out of suitcases for a long time now, traveling and serving missions. So it was like kind of right up our alley. So we prayed about it and told them, yeah, we'd be happy to put that in. So they said, well, in order to do that, you have to take your packet back. So ask your state president to pull it back. So we did pull it back, and eventually, once the slots were created, we submitted our papers the same day. And apparently there was like 4 people that asked about the thing in like the 24, 48 hours that it was open before they filled it. But then, we met and talked with, at least online, with the mission president. And so he put in a special request for us to come here. And then we put that as our number one. And it was interesting. The military relations missionary says, it's even though we do all this, it's still up to the apostle and the Lord as to where you're going to go and where you're going to serve. He kind of likened it to the brother Vither bringing the 16 shiny stones to the Lord, and that was kind of the purpose. And then it was up to the Lord if he's going to touch them and make them shine or not. So that's how we got here to Poland. So when we say that it's our number one choice, it is, after we told them we do whatever you needed us to do. So.
But it is very different because we're not assigned to a specific base. And we cover the whole country, and we're the first military relations missionaries here in Poland. So we're just trying to really find people and make connections with not only members, but also people in the military in general that are stationed here from the United States.
So we're building a plane as we're flying.
Yes, definitely. With a lot of stuff.
How many bases are there in Poland?
14 bases of significance, and there's some smaller little outposts and everything. So, but the hardest thing for us is just finding the people, because except for a few locations, everyone's here on a rotational basis. So they're either here for 6 to 9 months and then they're gone, and their records are back in the States with their wards and branches that they came from. So there's no way to really find them, except for if a chaplain happens to tell them, oh, there's some LDS missionaries here in the country. And we send out flyers and everything, and we have like a signal group that for information and pushing information out. We have had a temple trip, which was kind of nice, and then one group had a temple trip before we got here. So the Freiburg temple, the closest temple, and we've had an opportunity to get around to several of the bases, but we still haven't been to all the bases, and we've been here for 7 months. So.
Wow. Are you on what's the length of your mission?
So we've extended, we will be here until January of 2027. So it will be a total of 30 months. Anything more than that, we need an apostle's approval.
Yeah, we started out with an 18-month mission, and then we started missions so early in our lives, as far as age-wise. We felt like we were going to just serve another mission right after this.
And the need is pretty great here. So we thought, let's just stay here if they'll keep us.
Yeah, instead of going back and doing all the medical and submitting everything again and starting from scratch, is like, why don't we just stay here? Because we've asked for additional senior missionaries to come here for military relations, and they're in the process in the missionary department of putting that together. So hopefully that'll happen sometime this year, and then we'll continue to help build it out. We'll see.
Wow, so that's amazing. So where's your home base in Poland?
Poznań, or Camp K, Kosciuszko.
So if you think north, south, east, west, from north to south, it's about center of the country, and it's probably 3/4 of the way to the west side of the country, if that makes sense. So we're not too far from the German border, but from north to south, from the Baltic Sea to to
Slovakia.
Slovakia. It's about right in the middle. So
Okay, so you're pretty much a day trip for most of your bases, or do you go for a couple days and spend the night, or?
Yeah, usually we spend the night.
For there are a few bases that we can do in the same day, and then but a lot of them we have to go and stay the night. So we usually go on Saturday, stay the night, because we don't want to like leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning or something, or 4 o'clock in the morning to get to church on time. But there is one base that's fairly close. There's one that's here in town, and the branch covers it. There's only a couple of bases that kind of get covered by a branch.
A branch.
And but there's, I think one of the one we've probably visited the most is only about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on traffic. Furthest one that we've been to so far is a little over 6 hours, and then there's another one that's a little bit further than that we haven't been to yet. We tried to coordinate a few times with a member that was up there. He's since left, but every time it was a training base. He was a young officer, so like at the last minute something would come up and he'd have to go out on a training mission or whatever, so we'd have to cancel. So unfortunately.
Now, did you say you were staying on base or you were off base?
No, we're all military relations missionaries. We're not really associated with the military. We're just with a church. So there's an apartment here, just like all the other senior missionaries. They have an apartment. So we live in town, and it's about, I don't know, maybe about a 20-minute walk from the base that's here. And this is the core headquarters and also the garrisons located here in Poznan. That's why senior missionaries here are super important as far as getting those connections and I guess developing those relationships with the military so that we can go forward and get on the bases and everything. So
I've always been under the assumption that military relations is working with U.S. military, but is it any branch of the military with members?
That was an interesting question that we had for our military relations reps, and they said pretty much everyone's only worked with U.S. military, and they're in the process of trying to figure it out with other countries. But he told me if we ran into some NATO forces that were members, and we could speak with them in whatever language, we speak enough Spanish to be dangerous and English. So if we ran into people that we could minister to and work with, and that would be great. And so far we have only worked with U.S. military. So.
Well, and we've done some volunteer opportunities where the Polish military was invited and they participated as well. So we were able to serve them at a barbecue function during
when we're volunteering with the USO.
Yeah, that's fun. So have you been trying to learn Polish at all, or what's the language like?
Yes, so we have been trying to learn Polish. Because we've lived in a few different places, and the first language we studied outside of English was French. We had French, and then we lived in Germany for 4 years. So again, enough German to just get a big smile out of people, but hopefully understand or comprehend a little bit here and there, directions, food, simple things. And then also we lived in Mexico for 2 years. So of course we've got a little Spanish, like as he said, to be dangerous. But yes, we're trying to learn Polish. It's definitely helpful to have at least, common courtesies and to be familiar with the alphabet. It's not much different than ours, but there are some slight differences, especially with the sounds that the letters make. So we're doing our best to butcher this one as well. And surprisingly, some people just come back and speak only Polish to us. So we feel really happy on those days when that happens. We're like, yes, and I actually understood
what they said. That's
and they understood what I said. Well, it's a miracle. As a friend of ours would say, it's the gift of tongues. But yes, we've definitely tried, because we know any little bit can often go a long way when you're living in a foreign country.
Well, the interesting thing here in Poland is that the members they're made up. It's like a mix, at least in our little branch and a lot of the other branches. It's about a quarter English speakers, about a quarter Spanish speakers, Ukrainian speakers, and Polish speakers. So, and just that's how our branch is broken down. And there are a lot of obviously saints that came from Ukraine because of the war there. So there's a lot of sisters that are here. And that's been a great strength to the church here in Poland as well. And then a lot of workers have come in, especially Spanish speakers from Central and South America that are over here working. And then they're very, very strong in the church. So it's been great. So we've actually used Spanish way more than we have Polish here, which is a little crazy that I thought, that I thought it was, it's a little crazy.
One of the last places we think we would use
Yeah.
our Spanish, but we have like at least 8 Spanish speaking
Yeah.
men that attend church regularly in our
Yeah.
little branch here.
Yeah, our elders forum president's from Colombia, so it's very interesting. He speaks English well enough that it's we can communicate in English. Thank goodness, because if I had to do everything in Spanish, it would be tough. But it's the same thing. Like up in Gdańsk, we were just visiting with some senior missionaries up there and speaking and meeting some of the YSA and in the military people that work with the military. And he served his young mission in Argentina, and he said he didn't have Spanish until he came back here, and because it had been so long, and that it just came back. Like the Lord helped him remember, and he needed it to serve as a branch president up there and help out all the Spanish people that were working up there, Spanish speaking people, we'll put it that way. So.
So how does that work in your branch for talks and things like that?
It's fun.
Well, when we're there, so we don't go to our branch very often because we're always traveling to visit the military. So we spend most of our at least 3 to 4, 3 weekends a month, 3 Sundays a month, and with the military. So when we're there and actually see speakers, there's a few different things. Sometimes they'll do side by side, and some places they'll do simultaneous. So somebody be in the back, so like this weekend, someone was in the back, but we spoke in English and they translated into Polish, and then they had another person ready to translate into Spanish if there were people that spoke Spanish there enough that they needed it. And then for us, we do some side by side, usually English and Polish from the pulpit, and then in our little branch, they basically translate the talks into Ukrainian and to Spanish, and we've got small little Facebook Messenger groups that they send those out to, like right before sacrament starts, and then they can read along because you can't do it in more than 2 languages, otherwise your talks would be like 3 minutes long.
Yeah, right.
You really, it's hard. You lose the spirit a little bit, I think, when you're translating side by side. So it's much better if you have the simultaneous translations. So.
Fascinating. So what does a normal week look like for you? If there's such a thing.
So Mondays are P days, usually. And so we like to do stuff at least once a month with the elders and the sisters that are located in our city. So we usually take them out to do an adventure because we have the car, so we could drive. If we want to do something outside of the city, we'll go see some of the sites and everything. So we usually plan 1 week in a month with the elders, 1 with the sisters, and that's Mondays. Other Mondays,
So that's
usually
2
we're just
Mondays
kind
out of our month.
other Mondays we're usually just trying to catch up on sleep
Well,
because we're getting tired from
cleaning,
travel.
shopping, those little kinds of errands. What P days for?
Tuesdays, there's a mission devotional that's mission wide, and that's over Zoom. And then afterwards, I usually participate in a branch presidency meeting where I help out the young missionaries that serve as the branch president. I'm just one of his counselors, and because I'm never there, I'm not the branch president, but I can help them with a lot of questions, just from previous experience. And then Wednesdays, we have district council with our district. Those are the normal things. And then obviously Tuesdays and Wednesdays, when we're not doing stuff, we're preparing or writing talks or getting ready to teach, whether it's a lot of times we've done temple prep classes, and we do those usually Monday nights. We've finished 1 class, we taught 1, and we're getting ready to start 1 next week. So that's Wednesdays. Thursdays, now we usually volunteer in a city that's about an hour and a half from here in Powice, and that's a small base that's out there. And we volunteer with the American Red Cross and the USO there. And then we had someone that was baptized there. So we spent a lot of time there after, teaching missionary
The covenant.
discussions. And then after his baptism, my covenant path. So we taught that to Matthew, who was baptized. He just recently left last week. So we'll just go out there to volunteer. And then let's see, Fridays, usually more prep time or travel. If we're traveling to different cities, because a lot of times we don't get a P day, sometimes we'll go a day early on Friday, do a little bit on Friday, and then Saturday we'll try to meet with the military or the YSA or whatever is in the area. And then Sunday we'll have sacrament with the military. Sometimes I've counseled with some of the military afterwards. I mean, we don't hold keys, obviously. We're not a bishop, but having served into capacity, some of them need somebody to talk to about some things. So I'll counsel with them, give them a blessing, tell them if they need to talk to the bishop or not. And then we usually make our way back on Sunday, except for when it's super far. We've got some friends that live in Krakow. So when we're down in that area, sometimes we'll go to their house and stay the night on Sunday, so we don't have to get gas on Sunday coming back.
Something that's kind of interesting is, so usually we have church in a tent, with the military members, but we've also had church in a movie theater that
it was a Soviet military movie theater.
So that's another place. So yeah, we've had church in some really fun, interesting areas since we've been here.
Yeah.
So we never know what we're gonna get depending on, where the saints are able to meet. And a home, not in people's homes before as well.
Yeah.
Then we do special events in our town. So obviously we do whatever it takes to serve here in our branch. We go out there and help out the young missionaries a lot of times with whatever they've got going on. And when we actually go to church here, obviously I serve in the branch presidency, and Sister Samples serves in the Relief Society presidency. And so we stay very busy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So can you tell me what's the difference between your mission and what a normal military relations missionary couple would do?
Okay, yeah. Well, one from experience when I was a bishop. So I received a military relations couple right before I finished up, like probably about 6 months before I finished up my time as bishop in Stuttgart, Germany. And they just came down and said, "Hey, the mission president told us we work for you. What do you need?" So what normally happens is that a couple is assigned to a military base, whatever base that is. And so for Stuttgart, Germany, there's 4 casernes all within the same town, and then they basically served and ministered to the military in those casernes. In the States or other places where there's a large military base, they're basically assigned to that base and the agent stake that's over the base. They may go around if there's more than one stake in the area, they may actually go around and visit wards and branches that have military members on that base, but they're basically assigned and work. They work for the mission president, obviously, but they usually just take their marching orders from the stake president and the bishop has the most military members that are there. So that's kind of how it works. You minister to serve, especially when there was a lot of deployments during Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I'm sorry, I think it kind of started then more. I think it was after that actually that it started, but definitely from Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, that's when it really got big, and a lot of deployments and just kind of helping out the families that were back at home, ministering, helping out branches and wars. There was, like for instance, at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, there were times when people would leave and you would lose, 3/4 of your priesthood in a ward. So having military relations missionaries in the area that could help and serve and help the bishop out with ministering to those families that are in need, it's a huge blessing for the families and takes a lot of weight off of the soldiers that are deployed around the world, serving their country. So there's so many benefits and blessings. So that's kind of how it normally works, and we're just the exception to the rule just because it's. Because it's Poland right now. But, as we look forward, I think, it's going to Poland will become more like Germany in the future, I believe, and that there'll probably be more people that'll be here on a permanent basis, and they'll probably have some permanent bases down the road. Poland's a lot cheaper than Germany, and they love us here. So I think that the church will benefit from the growth of the military here, because as soon as they start making it permanent positions where they have schooling figured out, they're going to start letting families come over here. And as soon as families start coming over, they're going to have a lot of members of the church that come over, which will serve as great examples for the church here in Poland.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have another question for you. Now, and I don't know if you know this, but I mean the answer. But my question would be, before you had to be a retired military person to be able to do a military relations missions, because like you said, to get on base. But now they have people that haven't even served at all that are being called to military relations. Okay, how do they get along? Do you know?
So usually that's in the United States that'll do that. And what they do is they'll meet with a member that's in that stake or ward, and they'll sponsor them to come on. And then come on, they work with the provost marshal and basically get a pass to come onto the base. So they do a background check on you and everything, just to make sure that everything is okay. And once all that's done and you're sponsored by a military member that's there, then or a unit, and then you can actually get a pass to get on base. So that's generally how they're doing it. And I didn't realize that they had that until we went to the MTC and they were telling us
Yeah,
that
that
they
was
actually,
us too.
yeah, the people that weren't military that actually, you know, and I mean, and there's so many things that you can do. I mean, obviously, being a member of the military is super beneficial because you speak the language and you understand some of the things that they're going through. But there's nothing that would stop a senior missionary couple from ministering to and loving a couple or families that need that. I mean, you can learn the language. It's not that big a deal. The language of the Spirit is more important than anything else, I
Yeah.
think. So
Yeah. So you mentioned some finances in Poland. One of the questions that we had before we came out is the budget that the church gives you, is that adequate to live on? How have you found that?
Yes, it is. So Poland is definitely a blessed nation at this time, as far as their economy goes, and some other things as well. But yes, our mission is 1,450, right?
and
that
that includes the car.
that
Yeah.
includes a vehicle. We have a card for gas, mission card that takes care of that for us. Anything else you can think of? I mean, the prices for food are very, very reasonable compared to the United States right now. To give you an idea, I know about the bird flu back in the US, and that eggs are costing up to $8 for a carton or a dozen.
Yeah.
And I think we paid just under $2 for, a dozen eggs just the other day. So just to give you an idea, it's very reasonable. Most meals are around $10 here.
For a nice meal in a restaurant,
For a
yeah.
decent meal. Yeah, something super fancy might be $20 a plate, and that's
Mhm.
very, very fancy dinner.
Yeah, I would say, we didn't pay attention to the entire budget thing that the church shows, because we have TRICARE. We're retirees, so we have TRICARE. And so the insurance part we didn't look at. And so it's just mainly we pay $1,300 for our mission, and we pay $150 for the car. So it's $1,450, and it's that we found that compared to the United States, the cost of living has got to be at least
It's about a fourth.
I would say 25% less for what we pay for food and everything else
Mhm.
compared to. So it's actually super nice to
Yeah.
be here. The ability to save money and while we're here has been really great. And it's been really nice. So
That is great. Well, do you have anything that you'd like to share that you haven't already, that we haven't asked you?
The only thing I can think of is, we wondered, or we had talked about things that you might have brought or not have brought. So when we
Yeah.
came over, it was summertime, And we didn't have any winter clothes because we were living in Mexico, where it was average almost 100 degrees year round, where we were living in the Yucatan. So thankfully, we came over during summertime and had adequate clothing for that. But we decided we're not buying anything for winter until we actually get here. And if it was the reverse, where we were coming in, the winter time, we probably would have only packed winter clothes and left our summer things or giving them away, because it just makes traveling so much easier to have. Sometimes less is more, and you can almost always find anything you need in another country. Yeah, ask around, try to be frugal. One of the big things is probably American peanut butter here, but because we have access to the US bases.
Yeah, the shop that's on the
The
bases.
shop bets have dry goods, and peanut butter is one of those things that they carry. So we've been spoiled with American peanut butter. But really, I mean, honestly, there's not much that we're in need of. And so for anyone else, I just say, make do with what you have. You can certainly use Amazon, but shipping is a little pricey.
I think for me, the only thing that I would add is just as a military relations missionary, when I retired, I wasn't ready. Like I had it on my mind that I would like to do that
To
eventually,
be a relations
but I
missionary.
wasn't, when I retired, I was like, I need a break from the military. And I am so glad that we were serving this mission. Like the opportunity to give back and serve and mentor and just talk to these kids that have never been away from home, that have never, the experiences that we've had, all these things are for thy good, right? So we've been able to share so many different things about being separated from your families, what you can do to stay strong in the gospel and stay on the covenant path. And it's been a great blessing to do that as a military relations couple. My plug for Poland. This is an amazing country. Like when they first told me Poland, I was like, okay, we'll go wherever the Lord wants us to go. It doesn't matter. But I'm thinking, right after the war, Soviets wall comes down and everything, and it's like all factories and smog everywhere. It's just like any other place in Western Europe. It is beautiful. All the cities are beautiful. The people are amazing. I mean, it's a mostly Catholic country, so it's hard for the church, trying to get started here. But it just the people in general are just amazing people, and having the opportunity to serve the saints here and God's children here is just really, really nice. So a plug for Poland for anybody who comes serve in Poland.
That's great. We feel the same way about Hungary. We didn't know anything before we came here, and we're just like, we love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, just let us know. We'll get you in touch with President Roney. We'll get you here. We got plenty of missionaries.
Well, NYSA missionaries as well. We're down to, or will be down to 4 couples soon for the whole country.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's not a lot.
Yes, and it is the biggest country in Europe. So,
Wow.
I mean, as far as, land mass goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we so appreciate you taking time to talk to us. We've learned so much, and we thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah. And like we said at the beginning, information is it's so helpful for people that are thinking about putting in papers, because we have no idea we're like, what is MLS and what do they do? Well, what does, what's the humanitarian mission? What is it that they really do? And so as we've been talking to different couples that are in these things, you're like, oh, but that sounds pretty cool.
Like, okay, well, we can do this.
So
Okay.
Chris, he used to go around, and anytime we would see a senior missionary couple anywhere, in fact, that's how we got drafted into the first mission, was we just chatted them up, and they were like, oh my gosh, you guys should totally do this mission. And we were like, we'll pray about it. And the next thing I knew, okay, we're serving that mission. But he likes to ask, senior couples that we meet anywhere and everywhere, you know, what do you like about your mission? What don't you like? What's been difficult? What's been like most rewarding? What are the miracles you've seen? And we've really enjoyed doing that because you learn so much. But what a great way to get that information out via, you know, YouTube and other social media. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it.
You're
All right,
welcome.
thank you.
You guys take care. Enjoy Hungary.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.